A prince once shattered a contract in front of 500 witnesses. 15 years later, a boy walked through the city gates to collect the debt. The Duchy of Westmere rose from mist every morning like a stone ship. In the village of Millbrook, at the edge of the Blackwood forests, Elara worked the lower pastures. Before dawn, she spread compost over the winter fallow fields. With a birch rake, her boots sinking into the black earth, the air smelled of turned soil and frozen rain. She wore her hair in a simple cloth binding, humming a tune that had no words, keeping her hands moving in rhythm. Prince Rowan Blackwood came riding over the eastern ridge that morning. He was 19, newly knighted, drunk on the authority of his bloodline. His stallion was a gray destrier, 17 hands high. He reined in at the pasture edge, watching the girl work. When she did not look up, he found it irritating. When she continued humming, he found it offensive. He guided the horse closer, close enough that the iron-shod hooves churned the mud at her feet. She stopped, leaned on her rake, looked up at him, with eyes the color of river slate. No scherzi, no lowering of gaze. Girl, Rowan said. His voice carried the lazy drawl of the court. Tell me the name of this village. Speak with the respect owed to your future sovereign. Elara wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a streak of dirt across her cheekbone. This is Millbrook, she said, and respect is given where it is earned, Ryder. The name costs nothing. The tone costs less. Rowan blinked. In his 19 years, no commoner had ever spoken to him this way. A slow, dangerous smile spread across his face. He dismounted and approached her with the swagger of a wolf, cornering prey that refused to run. You have spirit, he said. I will break it. Here is my vow. I will take you to the High Court at Blackwood. I will bind you before the Duke's justices under the 7 Articles of Union, and before the 7th seal is struck, before the contract is sealed with the final iron stamp, I will abandon you. You will stand in the courtyard, neither wife nor maiden. Your name will be a joke in the marketplace. Your father will hide his face. Elara did not step back. She gripped the rake tighter, her knuckles whitening against the wood. And hear my vow, Prince of Silver Spurs, she said. Her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more weight than his proclamation. If I do not grind your pride to dust through your own bloodline, if I do not teach you humility through the very flesh you disdain, then I am no daughter of Westmere. I will finish what you start, and you will beg for the ending. Rowan laughed, but it was a hollow sound. He mounted his horse and rode away, the rhythm of the hooves drumming out a pattern of unease he could not name. That night at the castle, he could not sleep. He saw Riverslade eyes in the darkness. 3 weeks later, the formal offer arrived. The Duke's seal was pressed into green wax, delivered by a herald in velvet. Prince Rowan Blackwood wished to contract a trial union with Elara of Millbrook under the 7 Articles, a secular bonding requiring no divine witness, only the approval of the ducal court, and the exchange of iron seals. Her father, a yeoman named Aldrich, trembled when he read the parchment. He saw not honor but ruin. But to refuse the Duke's seal was to refuse bread for the winter, land for the spring, and breath for the next hour. Elara said nothing. When her father told her, she simply packed a bundle of her own clothes and waited by the door. She knew what was coming. She had planned for it since the day in the pasture. The ceremony took place in the outer courtyard of Blackwood Castle, a space of granite and banners, where secular law held absolute sway. The justices wore black robes, unadorned by any symbol. The contract was spread on a table of oak. 7 iron seals hung from chains: fidelity, provision, protection, loyalty, honesty, lineage, and final consent. The courtyard filled with courtiers, merchants seeking favor, soldiers idle between campaigns. Rowan stood in his ceremonial doublet, blue as midnight, watching Elara approach. She wore a simple dress of undyed wool, no crown, no jewels, only a silver ribbon in her hair that caught the sun like a blade. The justices read the articles. One by one, the seals were struck into the wax. With each strike, Rowan's smile grew tighter. Elara's expression remained unchanged, a mask of river stone. The sixth seal fell. The justice intoned the final article, the seal of final consent. Rowan staggered. He clutched his chest. His eyes rolled back. He collapsed onto the stones, with a theatrical groan, his body twitching once, then lying still. Chaos erupted. His friend Lord Kaelin rushed forward. The prince has the falling sickness. A palsy. Clear the way. He must be taken to the physic immediately. Strong hands lifted Rowan's supposedly limp form. The crowd parted. In the confusion, no one looked at Elara. No one saw her reach down and draw the prince's own ceremonial dagger from his belt, the one with the obsidian hilt and the silver stag emblem. She stepped to the contract. The justice was shouting for order. Elara pressed the dagger's tip into the wax beside the sixth seal and drew it down in a straight line, a symbolic seventh mark, completing the bond. In the eyes of the law, I am bound, she said to the empty air. And I remember. She walked out of the castle alone. For 3 months, she waited in Millbrook. No rider arrived from Blackwood. Her father dared not send a petition demanding completion of the contract, for the Duke was old and sick, and Rowan was now effectively the ruler. The village began to whisper. The humiliation settled over the house, like a shroud. Then one morning, Elara announced she was traveling north, to the trade fairs. Her father gave her his savings, a pouch of silver marks. She walked north, not toward the trade fairs, but toward the capital, Highwatch. She rented a stone cottage in the lower ward, near the tanneries and cheese markets. She purchased 3 fine jerseys, with broad flanks and gentle eyes. She fed them walnuts, dried apples, and sweet hay. She churned their milk into butter the color of amber. She aged their cheese in caves lined with oak, washing the rinds with brine and white wine. Within a year, the name of Marin, the name she had taken, was spoken in the high houses of Highwatch. Her butter cost a gold sovereign per pat. Her cheese was delivered to the Duke's own table in wax-sealed pots. They said the flavor was like sunlight on snow. Prince Rowan, now the acting Duke, first tasted her wares through Kaelin. Kaelin brought a crock to the private dining chamber. Rowan spread the butter on black bread. He stopped talking. He took another bite. Who makes this? He asked. A dairywoman in the lower ward. Kaelin said. They call her Marin. She sells at the Fountain Square. Each evening, she speaks to lords, as she speaks to cows, without fear. Rowan went the next day. He wore a traveler's cloak, of gray wool, no jewels. He found her sitting on a wooden stool beside the dry marble fountain. She wore a gray dress, a shawl over her hair. She was shelling almonds into a wooden bowl, her fingers moving with mechanical precision. He asked the price. 1 gold mark for a portion. She said, not looking up. 2 if you wish to speak while you eat. I'll take the portion and the conversation. Rowan said, amused. She looked up then. Her eyes were the same color, river slate, but he did not recognize them. 5 years had passed. Her face had thinned, hardened. She was a woman carved from beechwood, smooth and resilient. They spoke briefly. He returned the next day, and again after that. Over time, he developed a routine of visiting the lower ward. He explained it to himself as a matter of interest in the goods and surroundings. On one occasion, during an evening of autumn rain in Highwatch, he was allowed inside the cottage. The space carried the scent of yeast and warm milk. A simple drink was served in clay cups. A conversation followed, focused on daily responsibilities and general matters. As weeks passed, these meetings continued at irregular intervals. During the winter season, on a quiet night, with a low burning fire, the interaction remained calm and uneventful. He came every evening after that. He brought her gifts, a silk ribbon, a silver comb. She accepted them with a smile that did not reach her eyes. When she told him she was carrying his child, he went pale. "I will recognize the child," he said. "I will bring you to the castle. You will be my consort." "No," she said softly. She placed her hand on her belly. "I must return to my village. My father is ill. I cannot stay here, a kept woman in a stone tower. But I will raise the child with stories of you." She stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. As she drew back, she placed his own signet ring in his palm, the stag emblem, the one he had given her in a moment of passion, swearing it would open any gate for her. "Keep this safe," she said. "When the child is grown, if he chooses to find you, he will have need of it." She left before dawn in a cart loaded with cheese wheels. Rowan stood at his window, watching the city gates, holding the ring, feeling a hollowness open in his chest. 7 years passed. The boy grew up in a stone farmhouse, strong and quick and dark-haired. His mother called him Thorn. He learned to churn butter before he could read, and he learned the truth on his 8th birthday, when a village boy called him a bastard, and Thorn broke the boy's nose with a single punch. That night, his mother sat him by the fire. She told him of the 7 articles, the 6th seal, the empty 7th. She showed him the dagger mark on the contract, hidden in a chest. 7 counts for your name, Thorn said in a steady voice, and 7 for mine. The matter will be settled in time. He left for Highwatch at midday, tall and broad-shouldered. He visited old Margot in the lower ward, a woman known for herbs and local knowledge. From her, he learned that Rowan now held the title of Duke. Garrick served as sheriff, known for his strict methods. Severus commanded the forces, a man of few expressions. Since his daughter's wedding, 12 years earlier, Thorn began his campaign with paper. He posted notices on the gates and tavern doors. In a city of 2 tricks, a third has arrived. He who hunts the fox will find himself the hare. They called him the Fox. Sheriff Garrick tore down the first notice himself, a heavy man with a beard like wire brush. He swore he would have the boy in irons by dawn. That night, Thorn disguised himself as an old woman with a handmill, waiting at the north gate. When Garrick approached, Thorn wept in a quavering voice. "I am waiting for the fox. He promised me a gold coin if I ground wheat for his horse, but my bones are old." Garrick's eyes gleamed. "Go home, crone. I will wait for this fox. I will grind his wheat." Thorn shuffled away. Garrick sat down and began to turn the handle. It was harder than it looked. The night wore on. His arms burned. He dared not stop, fearing the fox would find him resting. At dawn, the market vendors found the high sheriff sitting in the mud, grinding wheat like a common miller, his fine clothes ruined. They laughed. The story spread like wildfire. Rowan summoned Garrick. "Find him," he said, "or I will find a new sheriff." General Severus stepped forward. "Give me 3 days. I will deliver this fox in chains." Thorn learned of Severus's daughter, waiting 12 years for a husband who had sailed east and never returned. Thorn disguised himself as a courier from the Eastern Trade Company, wearing a blue coat with silver buttons. "I bear news," he told the steward. "The merchant Aldo prospers. He arrives tonight at the midnight bell to claim his bride and make amends. He brings wealth for 10 estates. He asks only that the lady be ready and that you welcome him with open arms." Severus trembled. "He comes tonight? At the midnight bell?" Thorn circled back at midnight, wrapped in a merchant's cloak. Severus himself opened the door. "Aldo, I have come," Thorn said, deepening his voice. "But first, the dowry. You promised a coffer of jewels as surety." Severus, blind with joy, ordered the strongbox brought. Thorn took it, led the daughter to the root cellar, bound her gently with silk cord, and climbed out through the coal chute. By morning, he had distributed the jewels to the poor. Severus found his daughter at dawn, the strongbox empty. He rode to the castle, and laid his sword at Rowan's feet. "I cannot catch the shadow. He is smoke." Rowan felt a cold anger, a corrosion of his authority. "I will catch him myself." He went to the east gate that night, the gate toward Millbrook. He brought iron stocks, and sat on a stone bench, a lantern at his feet, his sword across his knees. At the stroke of 3, a figure emerged from the fog. A maiden, slight and wrapped in gray wool, moved with hesitant steps. "My lord," she said, her voice trembling, "I beg passage. The fox took my honor. I seek the river beyond, to wash away my shame." Rowan stood. "What shame?" "He came to my father's house, left me nothing. Let me pass, or show me how these irons work, that I might bind myself until morning." Rowan looked at the frail girl. "These are for criminals, not victims. Show me how the lock works," she pleaded, "that I might know the weight of justice." Rowan placed his wrists in the stocks. "See, the iron closes thus." The girl struck the locking pin. The stock snapped shut. She threw back her hood. Young angular male. River slate eyes. "Hello, father," Thorn said. Rowan's blood turned to ice. Thorn withdrew charcoal and smeared it across Rowan's face. "You broke a contract. 7 seals for the mother, 7 for the son." He removed his heavy wooden clogs. "The first," he struck Rowan across the face, "for the humiliation in the pasture. The second for the false collapse. The third for the years she waited. The fourth for the name she could not speak. The fifth for the cottage. The sixth for the ring you forgot. The 7th for Marin. For Elara. For my mother." He struck 7 more times. "And 7 for me. For the boy who grew up without a name." When he finished, Rowan hung unconscious in the stocks, his face swollen, his pride laid bare. Thorn sat on the stone bench. At dawn, the guards found their duke, bound and beaten, and a boy tossing a gold ring in the air. They brought both to the great hall. Rowan woke, his face bandaged, his eye black. He looked at the boy, kneeling on the marble floor. "Who are you?" Rowan asked, though he knew. "I am the 7th seal," Thorn said, holding up the ring. "I am the contract you left unfinished. I am the son of Elara of Millbrook." The hall fell silent. Rowan stood, walked down from the dais, and knelt before the boy. "I broke the contract," Rowan said, his voice carrying to the rafters. "I abandoned the bond. I earned the blows. This boy is my son. His mother is my wife. By the 6th seal in her own hand. She is the Duchess. He is the heir." He looked up, tears streaming through bruises. "I remember. I am sorry." Thorn extended his hand and helped Rowan stand. "Send for my mother." They brought Elara in a carriage of blackwood, drawn by 4 white horses. She wore the silver ribbon. She walked into the hall and saw Rowan, his face marked by her son's justice, and Thorn standing tall by the throne. Rowan placed the ducal circlet on her brow. "I finished what I started," Elara said. "You did," Rowan replied. "And so did he." Thorn stood between them, the ring on his finger. The crowd cheered, for the woman who had turned manure into sovereignty, and for the boy who had beaten a king into becoming a father. In the years that followed, when butter was served at the high table in Blackwood Castle, it was always the color of amber, and it tasted like justice.